This time I'm coming to you from Rio de Janeiro. You've probably heard of Copacabana, Ipanema, the Sugarloaf, or the Christ statue. But this time we're actually in a totally different part of Rio with the all-famous Thais is going to tell you guys about a whole different side of the culture of Rio.
Thais Rosa. I'm a tour guide, but also I'm a researcher. I graduate in tourism and I have masters in social memory, so I have been studying about Quilombo's community and community-based tourism for many years. And also I'm founder of Conectando Territórios, that is a travel agency that connects people to the African diaspora history, especially around Afro-Brazilian history. And this tour that we are going to walk is about the history of Brazil also, but the history that was uncovered around Afro-Brazilian cultural history and memory. Like Pau Brasil is the name of, it's a wood, actually, a tree that was exploited for many years and was our first economy. In the first way that the Portuguese started to explore the land, and it's also the name of our country. But during the slavery period that has more than 300 centuries in Brazil, we have three big economies, and one of them was the sugar cane plantation, coffee also, and gold. So actually Rio de Janeiro and the region that we are, Zona Portuárias, was occupied by the Portuguese in the three different hills. So if you walk from that white building, can you see there is a church? So in that hill was one of the first hills to be occupied by the Portuguese. So they installed that church. Mosteiro de São Bento is a Catholic church, indigenous territory, and before all this process of colonization, we have many different ethnic indigenous groups that was living in Rio, and especially around this area. So nowadays we can see that we have the marine over there, and so was Little Africa. And so actually Brazil was the country that during the slavery trade, actually they export more than 4 million of Africans to Brazil. And in the whole Latin America, we have more than 10 million of Africans that was brought to Latin America in general. And Brazil received 40%. That's why we are still like the biggest African descendants population outside Nigeria. And actually all the culture, all the knowledge, all the technology that was brought to Africans in Brazil was uncovered for all those centuries in our history. So that's why also we never fought and we never brought any of African heritage in our society.
So as we walk to our first stop on this little Africa tour, looking into the African history of Brazil and Rio de Janeiro, just a couple of quick facts. So before the Portuguese actually arrived to colonize, the French were actually already here. And in the beginning, of course, as Thais was mentioning, there was also indigenous tribes that were already living here. So there was a lot of battles, a lot of back and forth, forts were built to fight over this land, right? Brazil was the last country to actually abolish slavery in the Americas, and that only happened in 1888. So the history here of samba, of that resistance to the colonization, to being oppressed, still lives on in the traditions now, and we're going to hear more about that.
It's written Português. So what mean Português? Português is actually
like Portuguese?
Yeah, tongue. Yeah, the way that we speak, the way that in our Portuguese in Brazil has a lot of African words. So because of the slavery, actually most of the Africans that was brought to Brazil, they came from the Bantu culture. So in our language, the Bantu words are the most that we have. So for example, samba is a Bantu word, angu is a Bantu word, Quilombo is a Bantu word. So we have many words in our Portuguese that also came from Africa and also indigenous. But she's actually talking about the influence of African. Um, so actually, after the George Floyd assassination, actually, this was reflected a lot in Brazil because for many years we were denying that we were a racist country and we didn't have any visibility around our history, our culture. And so as you can see here in this mural, and especially when we walk nowadays around Little Africa region, so Little Africa is being like rewriting and making more visible leaders that was important to the development of the society, and also that struggle for many centuries about racism, all the invisibilities and injustice that they suffer time by time. You can see that we have different houses. It's a small community. It's a residential area actually. And so the Brazilian flag is like the most became a tourist attraction as well. But you can see from here, like the